We got the Miami Dolphins taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a big game for the Miami Dolphins. All right. Not just is this game going to have big implications in determining who's going to end up being the front runner to get the number 1 overall seed in the AFC come playoff time, but the Dolphins have yet to beat a good team this season. All right. Yes, it was impressive that they put 70 points on the Denver Broncos and they were able to beat up on the Carolina Panthers. They beat the New York Giants and they beat the New England Patriots. But after they put 70 on the Denver Broncos, the Buffalo Bills damn near hung 50 on this defense. And then they lost by double digits to the Philadelphia Eagles, 31-17. And it just doesn't go to this season. The Miami Dolphins have just been one of those teams that under Mike McDaniel, they just aren't really that good of a team anytime they play against elite competition, even dating back to last year. The last time the Dolphins have beaten a team that had a record of above 500 at the end of the season, it was week 8 last season against the Detroit Lions. And when they beat the Detroit Lions, they were 1-6 at the time. So you probably got to go even further back to the last time the Miami Dolphins beat a team that had an actual winning record of above 500. So I don't think that it's me hating on the Dolphins to say that this team can't win big games, because they can't, or at least they haven't shown the ability to. And you can go back to last year when they had that stretch when they had to go out to California and they lost to the 49ers, they lost to the Chargers. I've yet to see this team play a good team, and they were actually really competitive. Against teams that have a record of 500 or better, Mike McDaniel, he's 3-6. Tua Tagovailoa against good teams, his statistics look way worse than what they do when he's going up against some of the worst teams in the NFL. The Dolphins have a lot to prove in this game. I like the Dolphins. I think that the Dolphins, without a doubt, are going to be a playoff team. But if we're talking about this team being in a Super Bowl discussion, this is a must-win game. You're going up against a Kansas City Chiefs team that lost to the Denver Broncos. Patrick Mahomes is coming off probably the worst game of his NFL career, and you definitely can bet your money that he's definitely going to look to bounce back against that Vic Fangio defense. A Vic Fangio defense that Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, they carve up every single time they go up against it. Now, the difference in this game for the Miami Dolphins compared to the previous big games that they played in is that you haven't had Jalen Ramsey. You got Jalen Ramsey, and he definitely is a big difference maker. And I think that Jalen Ramsey is still a top 3 cornerback in the game. And I'm willing to argue and go back and forth with anybody in the comment section who still doesn't think that Jalen Ramsey is one of the top 3 best cornerbacks in the NFL right now. I'll go back and forth with you all night long. I love me some Jalen Ramsey. The wide receiver position for Kansas City has obviously been a big talking point. Rashee Rice has now started to emerge as their top option in the passing game outside of Travis Kelce. But really, this is an offense that is engineered by Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid and Isaiah Pacheco. The Miami Dolphins against the Philadelphia Eagles, I felt their defense played a pretty okay game. Yeah, they could have played a little bit better, but, their offense kind of let them down. If the Miami Dolphins can find a way to replicate the performance that the Denver Broncos had last week, they definitely have a great shot at winning this game, even though Kansas City, their defense is really good. And I think that this is the best defense that Steve Spagnuolo, I'm not even going to say I think, this is without a doubt the best defense that Steve Spagnuolo has ever had in all his years being the defensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's going to be really interesting to see how he's going to game plan for the speed of this Dolphins offense. Tyreek Hill, I don't think Tua Tagovailoa should be over him in the MVP conversation. I think that Tyreek Hill is the Miami Dolphins' most valuable player. And I don't say that to slight Tua. I just say that to say just how good Tyreek Hill has been this year. This dude has been a game changer. Then you also got Jalen Waddle that you got to deal with. So it's so much speed that makes it hard to defend against anytime you go against this Dolphins offense. But we also got to remember that this is the same offense that got shut down by the Buffalo Bills and it got shut down by the Philadelphia Eagles. And I definitely think that we're going to need to see Tua play one of the best games of his career. Tua Tagovailoa in big games doesn't play good. Miami Dolphins fans are really sensitive about Tua, and I understand it. He's your quarterback. You got to get behind him, but we got to stop making it seem like Tua isn't part of the reason why the Dolphins have had these big game struggles. That's why I started out this segment earlier saying that the Dolphins have a lot to prove. If you lose at Kansas City, you're going to be 0-3 this season against three of the best teams in the NFL. You couldn't beat the Bills. You got beat by 20 by Buffalo. You got beat by more than 2 possessions against the Philadelphia Eagles. And then if you lose to the Kansas City Chiefs, what does that show you about the Dolphins? When you think about the Miami Dolphins, right? You think about flash. You think about speed. But what is the one thing that they're missing with this team that is the reason why they're unable to pull off these big games? I think that they need to put a lot more emphasis on running the football. And their offensive line obviously has to play better. Chris Jones is probably going to have a field day against the Dolphins' offensive line. And I know Dolphins fans are going to defend their offensive line play, saying injuries this and injuries that. But at the end of the day, everybody's injured. Nobody's healthy at this point of the season. Everybody has either a key guy out. Like Kansas City lost Nick Bolton. He's going to be missing significant time. Everybody's injured during the midway point of the NFL season. You're lucky if you're able to have even an 80% healthy roster. And that's the thing with the Miami Dolphins that hurts them in these games. Their offensive line always comes to bite them in the ass. And I tell you guys this every single week. Football is still a game that's won and lost in the trenches. It doesn't matter if you got all these fast speedsters at wide receiver and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill if you're not having the time for Tua to throw the football to him. And you see, the Dolphins' offense is all about timing. It's all about rhythm. If you can get consistent pressure on Tua and you can get him out of sync with these receivers and you mess up the timing with this offense, the game is kind of over because that's what Tua's game is. He is a really good quarterback when it comes to throwing with anticipation and working well within the short, intermediate passing game. And he also throws a really nice deep ball when he has the time to do so. But the thing with this Kansas City Chiefs defense is that this defensive line is incredibly underrated. Yeah, we know how good Chris Jones is, but they got several other guys on this defensive line who are more than capable of being able to take advantage of a porous Miami Dolphins offensive line. Kansas City, their offense, let's not act like it's just some smooth running machine. All right? Yeah, we know how good Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid are, but this offense has had some wonkers. Against the Denver Broncos, oh my goodness, that's a nightmare scenario. And imagine if the Dolphins defense can replicate that performance in this game. And the Dolphins definitely do have the talent to do so, especially up front. Christian Wilkins, Bradley Chubb, especially with Jalen Ramsey coming back. This Kansas City Chiefs offense, we could definitely see them struggle again. And anytime Kansas City goes up against good teams this year, it's not like their offense has just been operating without any flaws. You know, we saw what the Detroit Lions were able to do to this offense at times. And we obviously saw what, last week, what the Denver Broncos were able to do to this offense when these receivers really can't get going and you're able to get Patrick Mahomes having an off game. Now, of course, the likelihood of Patrick Mahomes having another off game is really slim. But against the New York Jets, their defense was able to slow down and contain Kansas City's offense. And when you look at the Chicago Bears, I mean, they got blown out, but they're just a terrible team. But go back to the week before that when they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. They only put up 17 in that game. So the Chiefs, when you look at the Miami Dolphins, I think it is fair to say that the Dolphins do have a big game problem. But the Kansas City Chiefs offense, they kind of got a big game problem as well because their offense doesn't look all that great anytime they face a team that kind of has a solid or somewhat decent defense. The Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't think they got a great defense. They got a top 15 defense. All right. And we saw the Jacksonville Jaguars keep that game fairly close. Tua Tagovailoa is really going to have to be able to make plays late in the fourth quarter to give the Dolphins the win. All right, there's no way that you can go around that. Tua has to step up. I haven't seen Tua step up against the Buffalo Bills. I didn't see him step up against the Philadelphia Eagles. All I hear when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa not being able to get it done in big games is excuses. All it's the refs, all it's the offensive line, all it's the injuries. I mean, the dude threw an interception trying to hit Raheem Mostert on a slot fade. Now, of course, you got to give some criticism to Mike McDaniel on that play calling, because why is Raheem Mostert at running back running a slot fade against one of the better defenses in the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles? It's just the Dolphins don't play their best football anytime they play a good team, but Kansas City's defense has played well, and their defense has kind of carried them in games against big teams this year. But they still got Patrick Mahomes, and I do think that Patrick Mahomes really is a big difference maker, especially going against a Vic Fangio-style defense that him and Josh Allen have a lot of success against. That's why I'm taking Kansas City to win. I just don't believe that the Dolphins are still a good enough team that they can beat other teams that are considered to be as good or better than what they are. Yeah, they're 6-2 right now. They got one of the best records in the AFC, but they haven't beaten none of the best teams in the NFL. You got blown out by Buffalo. You got beat pretty handily by the Philadelphia Eagles. And I don't think that this game is going to be as one-sided as those other games have been, due to how inconsistent and the struggles that Kansas City has had offensively this year. But with how good Steve Spagnuolo's defense has been playing this year, I think that we could see this Dolphins offense have another lackluster performance. Give me the Kansas City to win. 24-13 is my final score prediction in this game.